Hi and welcome to this demonstration of the Tracealyzer streaming in STM32CubeIDE. You find this example project on Persepios GitHub page and instructions are in the README file. Apart from Tracealyzer and STM32CubeIDE, you need an STM32 board with an STLINK v3 debugger and also Python installed. Trace Recorder is already integrated here, so the next step is to create a new debug configuration. The details are described in the instructions, but the main change is to select Connect to Remote GDB Server. And we need to specify the TCP port where the GDB server is listening for connections. STM32CubeIDE includes the STLINK GDB server, and by clicking the Show command line, we can see where it's installed. We need these two paths later on, so copy this text. We also need to enable the serial wire viewer option, and it's recommended to limit the SWO speed to 8 MHz or lower to improve reliability. Then we need to go to the startup page and go down to Run commands, and if you're using Windows, enter this. This file, settings.py, contains the settings for the trace streaming solution, for example the GDB server port and the SWO port. These need to match the corresponding setting in your debug configuration. Finally, we have these two paths pointing to the GDB server executable and to the STLINK programmer directory. You get these from the Show command line text that you copied earlier from your debug configuration. Then we set up an external command for running the GDB server. These are scripts in the project root directory, starting with STM32CubeIDE external tool, 2 versions for Windows and Linux, and as working directory, set your project root folder. Now we can start the GDB server like this. If it looks like this, it's usually because the GDB server port wasn't available, probably because used by some other application. So we need to change the port number. I just picked some random 5-digit number and we'll see if it's available. We need to apply this both in settings.py and in the debug configuration. Now we can start the debug session using our new debug configuration. Okay, the debug session has started and we are halted at the first line in main. Finally, we need to open the trace configuration here and make sure that ITM port number 1 is enabled. The others can be disabled and all the other options can also be disabled. And finally, we enable the tracing here. Start trace. But before we run, we connect with Tracealyzer. So let's double check the port number to connect to. Okay, yes, the data will be available at TCP port 5000. Now we start Tracealyzer and verify the settings. Entering 5000 as a port number here. The TCP address field should be the localhost loopback address 127.0.0.1. Okay, the setup is done, so now we can try recording a trace. I'm starting the GDB server and the debug session. Then I open Tracealyzer. You can start a session directly from the welcome page, but for more options, I open the live stream window manually from the trace menu. For best reliability at high data rates, I recommend disabling live visualization. Then I click Connect and Start Session. Now we can start the target system and we should see the data in Tracealyzer. In this example application, we can stress test the solution by changing this variable. By setting it to 0, we get maximum data rate. Now we have streamed for a while, 1.5 minutes at around 44,000 events per second. Let's stop here and open the Tracealyzer. This trace took about a minute to load since several million events. We can see the number of events in View Trace Overview if you're interested. Yes, this was almost 6 million events actually. If you want to record even longer traces, there is a trick you can use to reduce the loading time and also the host side memory usage. Instead of loading the full trace into memory, we can select Open File Preview. This opens quickly also for very large traces, and if you open a very large trace, then Tracealyzer will actually suggest that you use this. Here we can find relevant locations where we want to inspect the details in the trace, and we can select a smaller section, just that interesting part, and load only that part. This makes it a lot quicker to load, especially for very large traces. To learn more about Tracealyzer, visit percepio.com. Thank you.